On today's episode of the Sales Factor podcast, we have Luke Simpson. He is the head of sales with a focus on startups in the SaaS industry. Now, he specializes in crafting growth focused strategies, leading high performance sales teams, and building communities between customers with the company. With a track record of revenue generation, delivering exceptional customer experiences, and building high performance sales teams, I am super excited to have you on the show. Let's get into it. Luke, what is the biggest problem or the biggest challenge that you're finding in sales right now?
Um, right, so I've had to have to think about this one because it's always a variable question, right? That
Mm.
always seems to change on like a quarterly or month or yearly annual basis. So beginning of the year, because I work in more of a tech space, I would tell you it's the talent retention due to like layoffs and budget restraints. We're
Mm.
steaming to come out of that a little bit now, so we're pushing more towards the future, and we're probably going to be looking more like building bigger strategies because as working more of a smaller startup. But
Mm.
yeah, I'd say the biggest challenge I've had this year is talent retention.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been one heck of a ride this year with a lot of tech businesses, investment being funding being pulled, people being laid off. Like I've been on the other end of it where I'm trying to help people find jobs, but when when companies are laying people off and they're not recruiting, it's a lot tougher. And there's thousands of recruitment companies out there trying to all do the same. So it's good fun. But give us a bit more context into because you mentioned there, that this year's been a bit tough with retaining staff. And give us a bit more context into why that's such a big challenge for you, or it was.
Yeah, so like, 'cause it's more regarding like the challenging on certain times, right? So if you look
Mm.
at the tech industry in the whole, I think there's over 300,000 layoffs in that period of
Yeah.
time. And then that causes uncertainty, that causes them challenging times. And then from my side, as you were saying, right, what happens in the back of that? So the story starts in COVID, really. Right, you got to go back a little bit, right? So you had COVID, you had the blip of
Yeah.
everything stopped. So
Mm.
then the whole world stopped, and then you had that like economical boom, but afterwards, right? So it was like the COVID boom, and then everyone's hiring, everyone's going into like cloud-based remote work, and then we had interest rates and inflation,
Mm.
and then that just everything dropped off the cliff again, and then you've got the situation where budget allocation's an issue. People adjusting their budgets left, right, and center. And then what happens there is one of the unfortunate things is you know as well as me, Aaron, right? You've been in sales, recruitment is a part sales. There's a different aspect to it, but
Mm.
there's essentially a side of it that is sales. When budgets start becoming a problem and people looking at that, coaching and development go out the window because that's kind of a
Mm.
like, and then that's not a necessity, right? That's like a reward for doing well. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so then you're left with staff that feel undervalued, and you just the development career path kind of gets stalled. It's like, look, the job at hand is all hands on deck. We need you to do
Mm.
sales to keep us running because yeah, the company's having a budget crisis as well, right? So they need to everyone's put their hands on the wall, like hands on the floor, and everyone let's stable the ship, let's say. So we go into kind of that type of mode, and then it's kind of work life balance goes out the window. The whole there's the whole spectrum of everything, right? Like you're not as
Yeah.
praised for your work because it's more, again, it's more like this needs to be done than like, oh, we appreciate the hard work. So it falls all into these categories.
Yeah, like you resonate with me so much there because they pull back on training or coaching development, right? And you know, if business is tough, the solution is not do more. The solution is not, do you know what I mean? Just getting the phone, just boot, boot. Do you know what I mean? Like there has to, if you that's short term, granted, but like looking for the long term, if you want to actually have a team in place once we come out of that, training and development is super important to make sure they're hot in the heels and actually do the job, but love it, and actually enjoy it. Do you?
That's it, right? That's
Mm,
literally it. And you've got to think like from your side, you've got the experience. Like myself, right? We're quite lucky. Could you cut your teeth in like a cold, cooling environment, right? So,
right.
and I've been in the unfortunate pleasure of being laid off a few times. So I've got the
Mm,
positivity mentality, right? So I can work through the hardship because I've done it before. But when you've got new
yeah.
starters who may be new to the sales industry, or let's say aren't as have the experience that you have of going through the pitfalls,
Mm,
that's when the positivity, that's where we as managers and leaders need to have that positive approach, because they're going to be more, they're going to feel the effects, right, of like the hard work, the,
yeah.
and you know as well as me, it's a relentless industry, sales, right? Like the, you're more likely to be rejected in this field than any other field, and you got to kind of
No, what are you
build
talking about?
that.
Not a chance. We
you
never
got
get
you
rejected.
got to build
Every
up that
single call.
resilience, right?
Yeah,
So these are the things, and then when it comes to the side of, look, it's all hands on deck. We're going to need to now like fully focus on you just bringing numbers in, and then there's no real like, the kind of clarification goes out the window as well, right? And
yeah.
transparency. It's like, just get this done. We need it done. It just, it makes it a bit of a turmoil time for talent retention, I would say.
Yeah, and then they're tempted. Grass is always greener on the other side because again, they're looking for the long term, a career where they can stay within a company, feel challenged, feel pushed, feel supported in actually being able to go do the job. And the amount of times I speak to people where there've been false promises or they've been said, we are we'll give you full training or full onboarding, and then they turn up and none of that comes through to fruition. There's no wonder then people just be like, do you know what? I'll probably find something a bit better that's actually going to push me forward and get them to the place they actually want to be within their career. But I see a lot of companies that that do want to keep good people, and you know, from your perspective, if you've gone through that problem or challenge at the minute, like anyone listening to this now, what have you found that really works to keep your staff on board? Is there a magic
Yeah,
sauce or a
there's,
secret?
so funny enough, like it's really funny. LinkedIn sent me a request to answer a question on this. Like, you should be an expert. So they sent
Interesting.
me a request.
Yeah.
It's kind of, so I'm going to basically feed off what I said there, right? So it's
Mm,
like, you need a transparent and clarity in your vision with them. So you have to treat every employee individual, because nobody has the same career path as this, very unique, right? So there's some people that are very happy to come in and do their numbers, and they want to remain doing their numbers.
yeah.
There's some people that are that want to climb the corporate ladder or the career path ladder, whichever aspect you want to call that. So you need to engage with them customers, them employees, and personalize your approach.
Mm,
So what do I mean by personalizing your approach? By them, I mean having your regular one-to-ones, fostering like a mentorship relationship, and then kind of giving them clear guidance on the way that career path works in your company, but also giving them opportunities that, for me, this works for me, right? And I'm not going to say it works for everybody, but giving them a clear understanding that if they were to leave, there's a career opportunity they can take by taking on the coaching and guidance from yourself. So
mm,
let's say you have a standard SDR that, wants to become like a high level AE. You can kind of say to them, look, that might not be a role here, but the guidance I'm going to give you in the training and coaching to develop your sales skills can push you into that position in the future. So
mm,
then that gives them kind of that retention. Like, even if it's, look, ideally sales market, 3 years, people usually move on. That's generally averages, right? So
yeah.
that gives them that more like clarity to want to work with you and be part of that team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just being transparent, like you said before, right? And being open with them. If you can provide that career progression, but individually that person wants to do it, it's about finding that happy medium for them to still enjoy doing what they're doing, but actually understand that in a year or 2 years' time, they can actually have the skills to push on and go do that. And I think, you know, I I've often found making them part of it, like not letting them come in and it's just right, all right, here's the numbers, here's the KPIs, here's your ICP, go do it, right? It's actually okay, well, where do you want to be and how can I help you get there? Okay. And attaching personal goals with business goals.
Yeah.
They might want to go, I don't know, buy a house or buy a car or whatever. It's like, okay, right, cool. How much do you need for it? Break it all down. Okay, how does that look like in terms of commission for you? If it's X commission throughout your own com structure, then work out how many deals that needs to be done and actually then tie it all back. So then you're like, they've got a clear path from a numbers perspective, but then you're attaching to the personal goal because they're going to be more driven by that rather than just like, oh, cool, hit 100 dollars a day and go do it, right?
Yeah.
And then that comes with development of the skill that comes with coaching. Okay, cool. So you're really great at cold calls and building relationships and getting on the phone, but your email, your sequences, you're not getting as many meetings. Cool, right? How can we actually support you and help you? Do you find that that works? Do you find that do you have an element of that that you apply to your team at the minute?
Yeah, of course. As I said, that's the personal touch, right? So you have
Yeah,
your individual personal breakdowns with each of your employees. So you have the situation where you sit, and that's when the regular one to ones. That's kind of mine. So I have
yeah,
two styles of one to ones. I have the funny enough with Mike Weinberg, some guy who does
mm,
sales, but the new simplified sales book. That's my I would say my sales review one to one is the accountability. 10 minutes, I'm in and out. I want to check your pipeline. I want to check your deals. I want to check your KPIs. I'm out.
yeah,
But then when it comes to your one to ones on your monthly basis of just like a personal one to one, that and the career development paths, that's where it's the more personalized touch where I'll have the conversation of what they're looking to do in the future. It, yeah, what are your personal goals? What are you looking to achieve while being here? What is your long term goal? And then putting in steps to help them achieve them goals, right? As you meant,
mm,
literally saying of what a back you said, Aaron. So like, you're looking to buy a house. How much is the house? This is what your average deal value is worth. This is what your commission is. If we can bump it up by 20%, hey, then you're going to achieve this in a 6 month quicker time
mm,
frame. How can we do that? Well, we're going to look at steps and ways to increase your productivity, increase your closing. Is that through looking at, stage one of the pipeline where you're sending out
mm.
your cold reach emails, or is that where you're not closing properly? Is down to what is your closing technique? So, yes, it's a very multivariable approach, right? I think the thing is as well, like as leaders, we've got so much on our plate at the moment that it's finding that time to do that with your staff. And for the people who have large corporations and staff, then it's a pretty much, I would say, probably like 50% of their job, but that is
Yeah,
their job.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. It's people management and stuff like that. Rather than doing, going out and speaking to customers. I'm sure you still do it, but if you've got a large sales team, like you physically just don't have the time.
Yeah,
Like if you've got like 15 people, that's 15 hours potentially a week or every 2 weeks doing one-to-ones or reviews and stuff. It eats up your time amongst everything else that you're getting onto. But it's do you find what way do you guys work? Are you hybrid on site, remote?
yeah, we're a mixture, we're hybrid, so we're on site and off site. So it's yeah, that's the reality since COVID, right? That you've got to
Mm,
find different means and ways of engaging with your staff while not
yeah,
being in the office. It's a lot simpler approach when you're in the office, right? Because you can sit with the team, you can sit in amongst the team, you get involved in their deals a little bit more because you can hear what they're saying, you can look at the conversations they're having. They're more
yeah,
enticed to go, Luke, come have a look like this, look at this deal and stuff. And then when you're remote, sometimes people just don't feel like they want to pester you. But I give that open door policy. I'm like, look,
yeah,
guys, there's no such thing as don't pester me. If you feel like there's a deal and it's worth working on, even if it's a small deal, I'd rather you get it right and then learn from getting it right to move forward than think I'm going to
yeah,
get it wrong.
yeah. I think a hybrid model. I was thinking about this the other day. I was having a chat with a few other heads of sales just about what they were doing because one of the clients I'm working with at the minute they want someone in full time 5 days a week, and I'm like, there has to be a fundamental reason why they need to be in the office. Now, what I mean by that is if you've got a sales SDR or an account exec and their job is to outreach, LinkedIn, pick up the phone, email, and stuff like that. The thought process is they can do that at home and probably get more done because of less distraction,
Yeah,
right? Than being in the office, potentially. Depends individual basis. But if they're coming into the office to do the exact same job or exact same activities, sit at a computer in front of it and do all the activity when they can do it at home. Like that's where then I think the friction comes in because they have to get up and go into work and all that sort of stuff. So what I was suggesting to the other guys is like what you could be doing is like in the hours that they come into the office, like how are you then increasing not performance, but like the camaraderie, the group as a team, like that hunter pack, mentality. Like, is there training? Is there more like group training? Is there more stuff that they're actually coming in for than just to sit at a desk and do what they can do at home? So it was really interesting conversation around, how do we make the the actual office, the environment, something that they actually want to come to the office rather than just like I'm coming, because it can be a bit of a friction. How's the response from your sales staff about coming to the office versus working from home?
Yeah, see, generally how I have it set out for my staff is beginning when you come on, you're here for 3 weeks to a month, training, learning the products, getting understanding, and I kind of let you loose on the world once that's that's all done. And then generally, what my like Nevada is in this, right, would be you're only coming in for meetings, big projects that you need
Mm,
collaboration on,
mm,
and then collaborative pieces. So you are part of a team because, as you said, there is that element, right, where you can't be fully at home because then you become like that lone wolf, right, and you don't feel a connection
yep.
to the company, like, so you need that breakup. But if you've got look, the future for us obviously as well is like we're nationwide, we're like gonna be international. It's gonna be impossible if I've got someone in like the Middle East as a client that I'm gonna try and get into
Mm,
the office, right? So you've just got to work on the collaboration pieces when you do have them in the office. That's for me, I would say, the avenue I would push more, because why are
yeah.
you going to bring them in like, as you rightly said, Aaron? Why are you going to bring them in the office to do calls?
Mm,
It doesn't make sense unless obviously you need to monitor and re-coach, right?
sure.
Like,
Sure.
if they're doing a fine job and then you just bringing them in for big projects, just that I would say, and don't broke things if it don't fix things if it isn't broken, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we're all adults as well. You're bringing on like I'm bringing on sales staff generally that have experience and what are motivated to hit their goals. So I don't need
Yeah.
to sit with them to go, "How's your emails going? How's this email going? What's this all about?" Like, I don't need to do that.
You mean micromanagement doesn't work?
Oh, it's my favorite thing to do, micromanagement. Can't When
Could
I
you
get
imagine?
this phone call, I'm just gonna sit next to my staff and just
But
yeah, no, you don't even need to look at the reports to see that, right? Like, there's so many
exactly.
studies in case that micromanagement actually decreases productivity and decreases your team. I always go to customer, but I'm employee. It increases your employees'
Yeah.
engagement, the satisfaction in the role. Like, it just
Yeah.
the use of micromanagement for me, and I'll be brutally honest with you, is if I don't want that staff member there.
Mm,
If I'm trying to put a person on a PDP plan and get them out of a company, I'm gonna micromanage them.
mm.
It's that's how I look at it, because it's who wants to come into work to have the boss breathing down their neck? Like,
No, exactly. Right. It's not, and I think people are, people can see the writings on the wall, from an employee, from a management perspective. Like I've had it where I've had teams, right? That's like 3 months, you're out, you're out. I know you're leaving. I know just in terms of how you come, like because the energy changes, what they do on a daily basis changes, and you just know that cool. Like, and I think if that's a probably poignant point. Like I think you can find that because people can hide behind screens and be all jolly and stuff, but like face to face, I think you get a bit more like you can really tell.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? If someone's on that, and then if that comes in and you still need that person in your business doing it, then it might be sitting down. Cool. Are you doing the one to ones? Are you doing more of the personal stuff? How can you help and coach and train in different ways that can actually help them get back on track? Or it could be something that they're afraid to say that you won't really uncover until you, I guess, sit down and have that conversation. But w- what have you found is the best way that companies should provide, their team with development of their skills? Is it on an individual basis, do you reckon, or is it we're going to roll out this training that potentially they want or they don't want. Like, how do you feel is the best way people
I
should
think it's a
combine?
mixture. I think
Mm,
you have to have the one-to-one development, right? Because there's going to be
sure.
certain development bits they'll probably need that are different or to your other staff members. But then having like team bonding and like
Mm,
team events, or let's say like team coaching trainings, right, where people can bounce ideas of each other is also great because
mm,
it's always a learning curve. Like you're in a situation where you're doing your own recruitment thing. Now I'm in a situation where I'm here, but I could bring in a staff member who has a different way of looking at how to prospect, let's say, for prime example, or different way at how to engage with, like, build community, engage with my customers that I haven't thought of.
yeah.
So you need to really develop that approach, which is like it's a blended variable approach, right? Like you
Mm,
have collaboration, you have this singular approach, and then you have like a team approach and team building. It's always good to have a candid team, right? That you bounce ideas off. That's kind of like
massive. Yeah.
it's how companies
Feel
grow.
part of it then. Yeah, they feel part of it and stick around. And again, obviously, that's the theme for the conversation today is making sure that people want to work for the business and feel part of it. There's so many times I speak to people and just like it was just getting the phone from day one, and it's like think to yourself if you listen to this and you've got someone in your team like that, like would you want to work for a company like that? Probably not.
Yeah, exactly, right.
You
Like
know?
I've been in them environments where it's like you come
Mm,
in and you're just on the phones bashing out hundreds of numbers a day, and then you go
mm,
home, and then you do that the next day, and the next day, and the
mm.
next day, and no one ever pulls you aside and be like, "You're not doing this too well." You only get pulled aside when you're not doing well. You don't get pulled
Yeah.
aside for any other reason, right? So it's one of
that
them.
that that old line, are you free for 5 minutes? Can I have a chat in the boardroom? Or
Yeah,
yeah, been there. But yeah, I think that I think you mentioned before about building a community, and you can do that outside with your ICP and stuff like that, but also internally, right? Give them stuff to be part of. I was watching Stephen Bartlett's. I think he's doing a blog at the minute, and I took an idea from him. I think I'll implement when I've got my team up and running. Is one day a month is just literally have a complete day off or an afternoon off where they go do some activity that takes them away from being actually in the grind and doing what they're doing. And what that does is one, team bonding, two, feel a part of something a bit bigger rather than just doing the actual work. But then it kind of de-stresses them to a point where they can come back in fresh and recalibrated, ready to go, being more creative, and probably come up with solutions to problems that they were potentially having before. So I was like, that's wicked. Like he was doing some like silent disco stuff and
yeah.
some cool stuff. But
Well, that's the thing.
yeah,
We're moving more towards this type of like well-being era,
mm,
right? Where it probably makes sense
yeah,
because I mean, obviously, we haven't got the data to prove it, right? It's going to be 20 years if the productivity is
sure,
actually there or not. But looking at it like a face value, you've
mm,
got to think to yourself, if you give your staff, like some companies give them that you must have seen about the unlimited vacations, and then people actually aren't taking as many vacations as you think they would because now they've
yeah,
got. It's like treating people like adults, and they're going to be adults, right? Like
yeah,
this kind of falls under that premise. Like I'm kind of a big um I'm a I'm a big believer that like I spent a lot of time in Australia recently, and they have got their work life balance sorted. Like
nailed.
they have like longevity leave, they have mental health days, and they're not like questioned on it, right? Like so, there's a lot of companies I worked for in the UK that you take a day off sick, and next day you're getting written up for like what the sick day was. Like explain to them like doing the old normal case of like um yeah
Yeah,
why you were sick,
I
and these things are like actually illegal in Australia, which is nuts. Like you can literally get
yeah,
sued for that. And then you think of it, and then you flip it around, and you think like treating people more like adults and allowing them to have a day off when they're not feeling as fresh or as good to do work, probably in the long run is going to be more beneficial. And then you're
yeah,
falling back to the piece of staff retention, right? It's going to probably help you out in the long run. You've got
massive.
one of your top performers is like, oh, Luke, I'm not feeling it today. I'll be back tomorrow. And we were like, no, I need you. You need to come in, rather than be like, take the day, come back.
Yeah, yeah. It's like yeah, and they're probably better rested, focused. Probably do a lot more better the next day rather than forcing them into. Just on that sick thing, I remember. Yeah, because I used to get ill quite a bit, maybe every 2 months. Just um not eating the right foods, constant takeaways and all that sort of shit, right? And when I did get ill, if I phoned up, like sometimes I'd have to put it even on a bit more thicker to try and prove that I actually am sick. Like I'm actually like coughing, sputtering, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, and then you come in like a day later or 2 days later, and sometimes like I think you feel guilty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's it shouldn't be like that. It's just like, oh, if you're sick, go right. Like, let me know when you're better. Cool, let's go. You know
Yeah,
what I
no,
mean?
right. You're so right. Like I've had it sometimes. I mean, COVID's had that change as well, right? Like since the pandemic, and then there was the like they made it a very valid point that don't come in if you're sick, you're gonna make other people sick. That's
Sure.
kind of still in effect. A lot more people won't. Doesn't matter, like the old saying. Like I come from a very like old. My dad's very old school. He's like, you get yourself to work, and if you're sick, you get home. Like show your face, right?
Yeah.
And you look at it now, and it's like, is that beneficial though? Is it really beneficial to like drag yourself in if you're actually dying, like to go to work, just to go back home again?
Yeah.
Probably not.
I've definitely been there myself.
Yeah,
Definitely been there
we
myself.
all have, right? We
Yeah.
all been in that situation. But this younger generation, that they're going to feed off what we had in the pandemic, and
Sure.
it's probably better to do that. Like I've had it so many
Absolutely.
times where you've had them sick days, especially when you're younger. Right? You have them sick days, and right, you're watching like Frasier in the morning at 9 a.m. And you think to yourself, I should have gone to work.
Good old Frasier, followed by Friends.
Yeah,
Um, good. Listen, I think there's lots in there. People can, I'm sure people have got bits and pieces that they are doing, but it's good to refresh and kind of like have a going into 2024. Like, okay, cool, because it's going to be recruiting season come Jan, and there's going to be a lot of businesses, happily take your staff away from you into their business, and I think you got to protect them in a way and make sure you're giving them everything that they need to obviously go do what they need to do and actually feel one part of the business. So, what have you found that works best for your team to make them succeed then? Because it's great, personal. They're doing great and stuff. But what have you found works best for them?
yeah, like I think we've covered it already. Aaron. It is literally making them feel part of the company, right? That's
Yeah.
probably the best thing you can go with because if you go and do your one-to-ones and you do all the personal traits, but then there's a disconnection from the company. Let's say let's say you are just a sales manager, and then you do your one-to-ones, and your team have got a good relationship with you on a one-to-one
Mm,
basis, but then they don't have a good one with this high, like the senior management. There's still a
yeah.
disconnect. So you'll kind of fight. You're like this lone wolf fighting that battle to try and keep your team in, and you may get praised. Like I've had that previously where like if I when I left the company, I got like actual cards down as the best manager I had. It's just beautiful, right? It's a lovely thing to
Mm,
get that feedback. But then you've got to look at it again in the bigger picture. Like there's still a disconnect from the senior management. So it needs to be that thing where the whole organization gets them onto a level where they feel wanted and they feel
yeah.
part of that part of that so part of the community, right? That's the way I put it, part of the community from both because you've got to think it as well. If they are part of the community based on the internal side, and especially for salespeople, they're going to
Mm,
perform a lot better for you. They're
yeah.
going to
Feel
do a
more
lot
empowered,
more for
right?
you, and they're going to create that community with your customers as well. So
Mm,
that centric culture of like customer and community base. If you
yeah.
breed it inside, it's gonna it's gonna formulate outside, and you're gonna see better results.
Yeah, and you get the right people into the business then that actually want to be a part of that. They feel empowered then to do the
Yeah,
job, and it makes cracking the whip and all that sort of stuff become redundant because they're actually going to be adults and do what they say they're going to do, which obviously feeds into them staying at the business and
yeah.
performing at a higher level, which is what everyone wants. So,
And then it's like them things if there's like certain little overdue tasks that may take you outside of work hours, right? When you're feeling like a valid member of the team and a valid member of
mm,
the company, it's not like a hard request. as long as you don't
Mm,
obviously abuse that power, but you go to them,
sure.
look, I need you to stay. There's a project needs to be finished, or I need you to stay. There's a big client that we just got to get the quote out for, get a demo run for. If they feel part of the company, they're more in touch to go, yeah, I'll happily do that. Rather than, if you're cracking a whip every day and you're in a situation where you're doing 100 calls and no one cares, these
Mm.
people want to leave at 5:30.
No,
They're
exactly.
packing up
And
at five. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Bags
and
still on sitting at their desk.
well, that's it. And it's testament that if people are doing that and you're off their own back and happy to do so, then you've got something right within the business of what you're doing, which is awesome. But loads to take away there, and loads for people can kind of digest and look at their own process and see what could we take any of that from what you've said and actually implement it into their own business. But you've you've been in sales for a long time.
Yeah,
Um,
unfortunately. Or
got a
fortunately,
load of t-shirts.
look at
Yeah,
that.
yeah. What would you say is the biggest highlight in your career, your sales career so far?
So this is a weird one, right? Because I don't sit there like I would never sit there and be like, oh, this account I brought on
You-
is the biggest thing I've done. It's kind of for me, like going off the back of all of this, is the development. It's the development. Like starting off as cold calling. I think my first ever sales role, which ain't even on my LinkedIn, is like knocking door to doors for Empower.
Oh, love it, love
Yeah.
it.
Now like heading up teams, looking
I
at
knew
like
I recognized you from somewhere. That's
they used to be the little like you had the pieces of paper, like you would like sit there and you run through them, like pretend you got their serial numbers and you run through all the spiel, and you get your like territories. Yeah, from like it's like more the development, right? And then,
Mm,
again, like leading of everything with talent retention, it also falls down to the individual. Like, have they put any of their own personal time into their like development as well? Because that's
yeah.
gonna pay dividends in the future, right? So it's like that's my look at it. Like I don't sit there and go, oh, I got this big account when I was working in this company, or I hit my I was like the highest achiever in this quarter. They're great achievements, but if you look at like the body of work, right, and now you're like you
Yeah.
started from here and you got to there, like there's you must have seen that one on LinkedIn as well, where that person was it like worked at Pret that started off
Yeah,
like
yeah.
coffee and then they're like the CEO, like that's the achievement.
20 odd years or something. That
Yeah,
was awesome.
that's the achievement, right? That there is like that's what you look at the body of work and go, yeah, this is, and then it's still to grow, like still to do more, still to
Mm.
develop more and more.
Yeah, I think that's the fun part of the job is constantly developing and being challenged and being pushed on to the next thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, what about you? What would you say your biggest?
Ooh, I think yeah, I think you're right. I think I really get a lot of self satisfaction and joy out of building teams and watching other people do well based of what I've taught them. And then obviously going on smashing out targets and doing that. So it's accolade to then I've done something right. Um, I think one of the biggest things for me was in a way was always listening to other people because I wanted to start this business ages ago, and I listened to other people say, no, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And I finally got to a point where it's just like, why am I listening to everybody else telling me what I can and cannot do? Um, I got to the point where it's just like, "Do you know what? I'm just gonna go for it." And jump both feet in. I had no money saved up. And it's been rocky. Like there's been some weeks I've been on rice and beans for sure. And really penny pinching, but it's been fun and it's been good. And I built a load of good relationships and a load of good people. And I kind of, the, I kind of want to look back in about 2 years' time, just be like, remember those days where I was just flipping stressed out, 2 hours sleep, like, do you know what I mean? But it's been good because again, it's something I really want to build and I want to give back, which is why I was doing this podcast, is to be in a position to give value back to people rather than just being your typical, recruiter. I can find you people. I can find you people. Do
Yeah,
you know
no,
what I mean? So,
yeah, no. See, that's the thing is that's exactly my point, right? It's the body of work. Like, it's yeah, obviously working for yourself and hitting your numbers is brilliant. And then when you start developing teams and you see them progress,
mm,
and then like even for instance, like I have someone who's actually a close friend now who I used to manage, who's now like I don't know the position, but the pay rise he had from working with me to like the tools I gave him, it's probably like he's at least jumped up like 20, 30 grand on and just
Oh,
basic pay, right? So it's like that's an achievement. Like you can look at that and
mm,
go, that's kind of the vision. But so the next steps is now to embody everything and just improve more. And
yeah,
that improvement come like my improvement, the same as what you're saying, is my improvement comes from making people around me improve now. So
yeah.
that's the version I have to look at it like.
Love it. Love it, mate. It's exciting stuff, mate. And I think going into 2024, I think we're gonna hopefully be in another boom season, which would be awesome. We're still not in it yet. There's still a lot of businesses that are laying people off and still, really trying and developing. But yeah, hopefully next year I'm expecting big things. So let's see how we
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
But I guess
Hopefully.
just to yeah, so go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say hopefully. That's literally hopefully, right? We're looking. It's like we're on the
Come on.
brink now. It's like it's starting to tip in our favor. You're starting
Yeah.
to see markets come back as well, which have dropped. So it's
Yeah, exactly.
looks.
Exactly. So I guess just to wrap up the show, for people that are listening, like how you come across, like what you've been saying, and they want to reach out to you, how should they contact you? And feel free to plug in what Kiana do, and if you're hiring right now, and anyone wants to reach out to you.
Yeah, so kind of we're like an ordering, payment, and fulfillment processor. You can see in the background, we do kiosk like hospitality, retail. We also do a lot in hotel spaces, and we're international. Look, if you're interested in any of them services, you can either reach me on a mobile number, 075471140076, or alternatively, my email is just luke at Kayana, top right corner of this as well, .co.uk.
Perfect.
Look, we're quite big in the customer space now and pride ourselves on support. We look so for a little bit of a plug right for the end of this. We
Yeah,
looked
yeah,
at
go
that
for it.
industry and regarding how we talked about everything, like support's a massive mechanism in anything, and we've looked at how this industry supports their customers, and we thought we can go a step above and offer a bit more high level support at real time and like over a more period of days, um, which seems to be one of our like USPs at the moment, right? Like real good selling points. So yeah, you're interested in our services, you're looking to open up a new restaurant or your franchise, and you just want
Mm,
a better support mechanism, give me a call.
mate, love that. Well, so I used to build computer games in PlayStation 2 and like 8. This is like 16, 17 years ago, right? Shows you how old I am. I know I don't look good, so stop.
Yeah,
Uh, but then I got a job at Fujitsu, and one of the contract roles was to build servers and all that sort of stuff. But it was all around EPOS. So most of your M&S stores and your breach stores throughout the whole of the UK, I built the whole new till system, all that sort of stuff, the back end servers, connected everything up, tested it, and stuff like that. So yeah, very close to my heart.
yeah. You looking for a job?
That's for sure. I do, mate. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no,
And again, I really appreciate your time today. So thanks very much, and I hope everyone enjoyed the show.
yeah, and I appreciate for you letting me come on the show as well, Aaron.
Cheers, Luke. See you in a bit. What an episode there with Luke, all about talent retention. What should businesses actually be doing internally to keep good people into the business? We talked about training, coaching, really developing the skill set to develop the team and not just chucking them in and saying, right, do X. It's keeping the salespeople in the business that are excited, the career development, the career path, and real focus around the training, as we said, making them feel part of the company. I've definitely been in positions before where I feel a bit of an outsider and just doing the work, and that's great. But there's so much more to actually keeping people in. If you're sitting there and one of your best salespeople's left the business or handed their notice in, you got to sit back and think, did you really do everything you could do to really keep them on board, focused, and actually enjoying what they're doing? So that is the end of season one of the Sales Factor podcast. Hope you've enjoyed all the episodes, all the guests that have been on the show. I'm super excited to announce season two will be out in early 2024. So I look forward to seeing you all on season 2. All the best. Bye now.